Leo, something big is coming. It's going to shake your heart a little, and you might have to say goodbye to something familiar. But here's the truth, you're not being pushed out. You're being called up. That's where we begin today. You didn't just randomly land on this video. You didn't click for curiosity or routine. You clicked because something deep inside of you is tired of pretending it's still okay. The light you carry, Leo, doesn't fit in the container you've been living in anymore. Maybe you've been sensing it. That quiet restlessness. That inner whisper saying, I don't belong here anymore. Whether it's your job, your home, a relationship, or just the version of yourself you've been trying to keep alive, this is the moment the universe steps in and says, enough. You've outgrown this. From September 21st to 30th, the energy around you is shifting quickly. The Sun, your ruling planet, is moving into Libra on the 22nd, setting off a powerful transition in your personal path. You may feel like you're being pulled away from something, but I promise, you're actually being pulled toward what's finally aligned with your soul. You're not here to shrink. You're not here to stay where you're tolerated but not celebrated. And if it's painful to walk away, that's okay. That just means it meant something. But growth is calling, and you already know you're ready. You've known for a while. So let me ask you straight up, have you been holding on to something that deep down you know has run its course? Is your heart somewhere else, but your body keeps showing up out of guilt, duty, or fear? Think about it. Say it out loud. Write it down. Because this isn't about a prediction. This is about ownership. This is about your power to say, yes, I'm ready for something bigger. And Leo, you deserve that. You've stayed loyal. You've poured your heart into people, places, and paths that couldn't always return the same. But loyalty to the past can't cost you your future. As we approach the full moon in Aries on September 29, a fire sign like you'll feel a surge of emotional truth rise up. It's going to be clear what's no longer sustainable. It might hurt. It might feel final. But it will also feel like freedom. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not just a sign to leave something, but a sign that leaving is not failure. It's sacred. It's necessary. It's powerful. You've come too far to keep playing small. And you're not meant to do this alone. This channel, this message, this space, we are your mirror, and we're here for your rise, not your retreat. So before we go any further, take a moment. Ground yourself. Check in. Does any part of you feel like this message was meant for you? If so, don't let it just sit in your heart. Claim it. Speak it. Leave a comment below to confirm what's resonating with you. Share what you're ready to release. Let the universe hear you loud and clear. Thank you for being here. Thank you for every like, every comment, every time you share these messages. Your presence helps grow this space we're building together. And trust me, the universe is preparing for you today is something you don't want to miss. Stay with me until the very end of this video. Because by the time we're done, I believe something will have shifted inside you. You'll see it. You'll feel it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll know exactly what to do next. Leo, if you've ever walked into a room that once made you feel safe only to realize, quietly, that it now feels too small. Then you already understand what's happening inside you this week. As the Sun, your ruling planet, moves from Virgo into Libra on September 22nd, there's a subtle but undeniable shift stirring deep in your spirit. It's that feeling you get when the air in a room becomes too still, too familiar. It's not wrong. It's just not right for who you are anymore. That space, that person, that old way of thinking, it may have served you once. In fact, it might have even saved you in a season when you needed stability. But stability and growth aren't the same. And Leo, the truth is, you've grown. The problem isn't the job, or the relationship, or even the old version of you still trying to show up every day and smile through the weight. The problem is, your light has gotten too big for where you've been trying to fit it. This isn't a moment to feel guilty for wanting more. It's not arrogance. It's evolution. You're being asked to step outside the storyline you've outgrown. That's hard, I know. Especially for you, someone who loves with all their might, who stays loyal long after the fire burns out, who shows up even when they're exhausted. But you weren't made to stay where your soul can no longer stretch. And before you doubt yourself, no, you're not being ungrateful. And no, you're not selfish. You're listening. You're noticing the signs that have been quietly collecting around you. That restless sleep. That ache you feel when you're doing the same thing every day and wondering why your joy feels like it's on pause. That voice that keeps whispering, this isn't it anymore. The spiritual path isn't about chasing constant bliss. It's about being honest enough to know when your season somewhere has ended and brave enough to move anyway. Think of it like a tree. It doesn't apologize for dropping its leaves in fall. It lets go, so something new can form. Not because what was there before wasn't beautiful, but because it has finished its work. There's a reason this moment feels sacred and sharp at the same time. You're standing at the edge of an invitation, one that says, if you're willing to step out of the comfort zone, I'll show you who you're becoming. The hardest part of healing is often admitting that some things just don't fit anymore. But letting go is not loss. It's making room. It's trust. It's faith in motion. If you're still unsure about what exactly this space is for you, take a moment. Write it down. List the things you keep holding onto even though they no longer bring you peace. Be honest. No one else needs to see the list but you. Sometimes the act of putting it into words is the first step to breaking free. Naming the truth gives it power. And your power has been waiting. This is your cue to leave the room you've outgrown, not because you're running away, but because you're running towards something bigger. Something clearer. Something worthy of the version of you that has been quietly forming beneath all the pretending. You are not your past. You are not obligated to stay in a space that no longer mirrors your value. And no, walking away is not a betrayal. It's a blessing. Trust that the universe doesn't take you away from anything without leading you towards something deeper. Even if you can't see the full picture yet, even if all you have is a whisper, follow it. It's enough. You're enough. And this is just the beginning. The energy of a full moon is never quiet, but this onion September 29th in Aries is different. It doesn't come to whisper. It comes to crash through the walls you've built around your truth. If you've been nodding along with the life you're living, smiling at things that no longer move you, tolerating spaces that drain you, This full moon is about to make sure you can't ignore that disconnect anymore. There's something liberating about not being able to pretend. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also a turning point. And Leo, this moon is yours. Aries is a fellow fire sign. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the right time. It burns away what's false so what's real can finally breathe. And in your case, what's being burned away isn't necessarily people or place, it's the performance. It's the part of you that keeps trying to fit a role that no longer feels true. You may feel exposed during this time. As if parts of you that you've kept hidden, fears, regrets, lingering disappointments are suddenly out in the open. And while your first instinct might be to run or retreat, I want to offer something else. What if that exposure is actually your breakthrough? See, the universe isn't trying to humiliate you. It's inviting you to be honest. And that honesty isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because when you finally say, I've been pretending I'm okay, but I'm not, you give yourself permission to heal. You let go of the performance and step into presence. That's where transformation begins, not in the perfection of your mask, but in the courage to remove it. The truth is, Leo, you've stayed loyal to people, situations, and even versions of yourself long past their expiration date. And not because you're naive. Because you care. Because you believe in trying. Because you don't give up easily. But holding on when your soul is ready to let go isn't loyalty, it's self-abandonment. And this full moon? It won't let you do that anymore. Think of it like spiritual detox. The moment the energy peaks, everything that's been repressed starts to rise. Old fears. Unspoken boundaries. Discomfort you've tried to numb or spiritualize. Let it come. Let it rise. Let it move through you. The discomfort is not the enemy. Suppressing it is. Because what you resist doesn't disappear, it builds, silently, until moments like this crack it wide open. So when things feel emotionally intense this week, don't panic. That's not you falling apart. That's the old shell breaking. That's clarity being born in the rubble. This is the kind of honesty that creates real change, not just in your external life, but in the way you hold yourself. If you want something tangible to do, keep it simple. Soak your feet in warm water and salt. Ground yourself. Light a candle, sit in stillness, and ask, what truth am I avoiding? Name it. You don't have to act on it today. But call it what it is. Because the more clearly you see it, the less power it has over you. Truth, once named, becomes fuel for movement. And if you're afraid, that's okay. Fear is often the first sign that something matters. Don't shut it down. Sit with it. Thank it. And then remind yourself, growth doesn't always feel good at first, but it always leads somewhere real. This moon isn't trying to break you. It's trying to wake you. Let it. Let it show you where you've settled. Let it remind you who you are beneath the script. Because the role you've been playing, it's ending. But the version of you that's emerging, that's the real show. And you're finally ready for it. Letting go is rarely easy, but sometimes it's exactly what opens the door we've been asking for without even realizing it. And Leo, if you've made it this far, if you've sat with the discomfort, faced the truth, and still shown up here, then what you're about to walk through isn't an ending. It's a threshold. You may not have asked for this goodbye. Most of us don't. We like what's familiar. Even if it hurts, even if it's no longer fulfilling, there's something about predictability that makes us feel safe. But safety, as comforting as it may seem, can quietly become a cage. What once felt like a dream job may now feel like a dead end. The person who once lit up your world may now dim your own light without even trying. And the version of you that once did her best? She's tired. And she knows it's no longer enough. Not because she failed, but because she's ready for more. That more doesn't always arrive in fireworks and applause. Sometimes, it arrives through the ache of saying goodbye. And Leo, I know how fiercely you love. I know how long you hold on. I know that letting go isn't just about logic, it's about emotion, loyalty, and heart. So if this goodbye feels like grief, it's because it is. You're grieving the role that helped shape you. You're grieving the chapter that protected you. And yes, you're even grieving the comfort of knowing who you were. But what if that grief is sacred? What if it's not a sign that you've lost anything, but that something new is about to begin? There's a quiet kind of courage in walking away from what no longer feels alive. It takes strength to choose growth over guilt, to choose expansion over obligation. You're not being abandoned. You're being rerouted. And not by accident, but by divine timing. It's okay to mourn what you're releasing. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel afraid. But I hope you also feel proud, because what you're doing right now takes soul. You are not walking away from something bad. You are walking towards something better. Something you might not even be able to fully imagine yet, but that's okay. You don't need to know the destination to take the first step. Sometimes the most powerful healing work we can do is to speak the words we've never said aloud. That's why, if you're ready, I encourage you to write a goodbye letter, not to hurt anyone, not to seek closure from others, but to give it to yourself. Write to the person, the job, the version of you that you're now releasing. Say what you never had the space or courage to say before. And then keep it. Or burn it. Or tear it up. The point is not what happens to the letter, it's what happens inside you when you write it. Goodbyes aren't proof of failure. They're proof that you're alive. They're proof that you're listening to your inner compass. And that compass, though quiet at times, always knows when it's time to move forward. If no one has told you this recently, let me say it clearly: you're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to walk away from plans that no longer align. You're allowed to leave things that once felt like everything. Because Leo, you are not meant to live a half-lit life. You are not meant to shrink yourself into spaces that were never built for the fullness of your fire. So take a breath. Say goodbye. And then take one more step. Because the moment you let go of what no longer serves you, that's when the magic begins. After letting go, there's often a strange kind of silence. You'd expect it to feel like relief, but sometimes, what you feel first is emptiness. That's normal. Because when you've been holding on so tightly for so long, whether it's to a job, a relationship, or even an identity, it can take a moment for your hands to remember what it feels like to open again. But here's what I want to remind you, especially now: the space you've just created, it's not just absence. It's invitation. And Leo, During this exact window, September 23 to 27, you're not just sitting in a void. You're standing in front of a doorway that wasn't visible before. As Venus forms a harmonious trine with Uranus, something unexpected stirs in the energetic field. This isn't the kind of predictable moment you can plan for. This is the kind of alignment that delivers exactly what you need, but through paths you might never have considered. That's why the most important thing you can do right now is stay open. Stay curious. And most of all, stay honest with yourself about what truly feels right, not what looks right on paper. Maybe it shows up as a message from someone you haven't spoken to in years, and suddenly there's potential where you thought there was only history. Maybe it's a forgotten project, a passion you once poured your heart into and then shelved because life got heavy, that now seems to call your name again. Or maybe, just maybe, it's money. A payment. A refund. A small stroke of financial luck that reminds you abundance can find you even when you're not chasing it. But the bigger opportunity isn't just in the form something takes. It's in how it makes you feel. Especially when it comes to love. You might meet someone now or reconnect with someone who doesn't check all your usual boxes. They may not match the image you've had in your mind of your type. But they'll feel safe, solid, present. And that, Leo, is worth paying attention to. Because real love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, with open hands and no performance. It meets you where you are, not where you think you should be. So don't dismiss the gentle. Don't overlook the unlikely. And don't confuse unfamiliar with wrong. You've changed. And because you've changed, what matches your frequency will look and feel different than it used to. This is growth. And this is how the universe works when it's not testing you but rewarding you. If you want to amplify these shifts, pay attention to colors this week. Use them with intention, like setting the tone of a room or the vibration of your body. Blue helps you communicate clearly, especially with yourself. It's a color of release, of breath, of letting go with grace. Bronze or gold tones build confidence. They remind you that you are worthy not just of love, but of respect, consistency, and joy. And lilac? That soft, quiet hue helps you forgive not just others, but also yourself. It carries the energy of transformation, not because it forces change, but because it allows softness to take root. Remember, what's coming in now is not a coincidence. It's the answer to a prayer you may have whispered a long time ago and forgotten. It's what finally has room to arrive now that you've cleared what no longer serves you. And while it might not look like what you expected, it will feel like alignment. So stay present. Stay humble. And above all, stay willing to receive. Because what walks through this next door? It's not just a gift. It's your next chapter starting to write itself. There's a moment, quiet and powerful, that happens just after a deep letting go. It doesn't always look like triumph. It rarely feels like certainty. But it feels clean. It feels new. And that, Leo, is where you are now, not in the ruins of what was, but at the edge of what's next. You haven't just walked away. You've stepped into the soft, unfamiliar skin of rebirth. The truth is, transformation doesn't come in a flash of light. It comes in layers. First, the awareness. Then the unraveling. And finally this. the reforming, the becoming. What you're doing now is sacred work, shedding the armor that once protected you but now only weighs you down. For so long, you've had to prove yourself. Be strong, be right, be enough for everyone in the room. But that story is finished. And what's left is you unmasked, unafraid, and more aligned than you've ever been. Imagine a phoenix, not bursting into flames, but slowly peeling off the ashes, one feather at a time. That's you. Not racing toward a new identity, but slowly, patiently allowing the real one to emerge. This is not about starting over. It's about continuing from a deeper place. With more self-respect. With more self-trust. And with a quieter kind of courage, that kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. You don't owe the world your explanation. You owe yourself your truth. And that truth is this: you are enough exactly as you are. You don't have to fight to be seen anymore. You don't have to hustle to be worthy. The people, the opportunities, the love that are meant for you will meet you where your peace begins, not where your performance ends. That said, don't underestimate the physical toll that emotional and spiritual transformation can take. This isn't just an internal shift, it's energetic. It's in your nervous system. It's in your breath. That's why it's important to support your body as it recalibrates. You're not being dramatic when you feel more tired, more sensitive, or even more open than usual. You're integrating. You're healing. So give your body what it needs to keep up with your soul. Go easy on caffeine, it sharpens the edges at a time when softness is the medicine. Skip the heavy, fried foods that slow your system. Your gut and your intuition are deeply connected. What you feed one affects the clarity of the other. Instead, nourish yourself with clean, grounding food. Add zinc, B vitamins, and light morning movement, especially walks at sunrise. The early sun carries a frequency that balances your internal rhythm and clears the fog in your mind. It's not just about exercise, it's about alignment. It's about showing your body the same care you're finally offering your heart. Rebirth rarely announces itself. It doesn't look like a trophy or a clear finish line. It looks like subtle changes in how you respond, where you invest your time, what you no longer tolerate. It shows up in how you breathe in the morning and how you speak to yourself before you fall asleep. You don't have to make it loud to make it real. You just have to honor it. So, Leo, here's what I ask: don't look for fireworks. Look for inner steadiness. Look for the quiet confidence that comes from finally choosing yourself. Because in the end, this isn't about proving that you've changed. It's about living like you have. Keep your heart open. Keep walking forward. The life that's meant for you is already moving in your direction. All you need to do is keep showing up with less armor and more truth. You've earned this new beginning. Now rise into it. Leo, if you've made it all the way here, then something inside you already knows this isn't just another horoscope. This is a mirror. A soft nudge. A cosmic invitation. You're not being asked to leave something behind as punishment. You're being asked to rise because the story you've lived until now has prepared you for more. There is a new chapter waiting with your name on it. But it doesn't write itself. You do. Every lesson we explored in this video, from recognizing the space that no longer fits, to facing the truth under the full moon, to releasing with intention, to receiving love and support in ways you didn't expect, and finally, stepping fully into your rebirth. None of it matters if you walk away unchanged. You have the keys now. The real question is, will you use them? So pause for a moment. Really breathe. Ask yourself gently but honestly, what are you holding on to that you know is already over? What version of yourself are you still trying to keep alive, just because it feels safe? What are you afraid will happen if you stop settling and start saying yes to what your soul has been asking for? These aren't questions to be afraid of. These are questions that free you. Because the answers theory, not final destinations. They're doorways. They're permission. And their power. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to figure it all out today. You don't need a 10-step plan. You just need to start somewhere. Maybe it's writing a single sentence in a journal. Maybe it's speaking your truth aloud for the first time. Maybe it's finally resting instead of pushing. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Let it be honest. Let it come from love, not fear. And if you're wondering whether you're really ready for this, consider this your sign. You wouldn't still be watching if something inside you wasn't already saying yes. You were drawn here for a reason. And it's not because something is wrong with you, it's because something in you is waking up. So let's turn that awakening into action. Tell me in the comments, what are you ready to release? What belief, relationship, or burden are you finally willing to set down? And more importantly, what do you want to welcome in its place? Declare it. Let the universe hear you. You don't need anyone else's approval to begin. You just need your own permission. Thank you for spending this time with me. Truly. Your presence matters. Every like, every comment, every subscription to this channel helps amplify these messages and make them ripple further into the world. So if this video resonated with you even a little, please take a second to like, subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness, and share your energy with this growing family of seekers and soul-led creators. And if your heart is stirring with quiet certainty right now, type in the comments, I'm ready to let go so I can rise. Because that single sentence might be the beginning of your next chapter, and trust me, Leo, it's going to be magnificent.